Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Maxi here once again, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Winnie the Pooh's Rumbly Tumbly Adventure for the Nintendo GameCube/PlayStation 2. So, last time, we've completely done everything for the Sacred Thief forms of Pooh's birthday, and as a result, that particular birthday stage is pretty lengthy, all things considered, especially concerning for the fact that we have to collect so many honey parts. In addition to that though, several sections are pretty tricky for the most part, mainly in the ending section, where you have to able to gain chased by the forms of certain Woolsels, but that's besides the point. So today, for this video, is not only this is going to be the true finale in terms of the forms of our Let's Play of Winnie the Pooh's Rumbly Tumbly Adventure, but it's also the final video for 2023 before we move on to 2024. So yeah, we've only just got about a couple of hours left until the countdown begins for the Sacred Thief forms of 2024, and as always, I'll give you guys my final thoughts of 2023 as a whole, but we'll save that until once we finish up the entire thing for the Sacred Thief forms of the last few extras for the Sacred Thief forms of Winnie the Pooh's Rumbly Tumbly Adventure, so we can pretty much guarantee we can able to actually do a 400% playthrough. So, oh, I did not notice there was actually music notes just right in here, so good thing I did somehow found that. So, I think relatively speaking though, I did somehow miss 2 music notes in Piglet's birthday stage, I'm pretty sure. So we can pretty much guarantee we can able to actually find quite a few music notes to be around here. So anyways, a few things I want to explain for this point today is, potentially speaking though, as to be expected, is that today's day is of course the 31st of December today, in some cases in 2023 today. Like I mentioned this before, we're now on to the final day for the Sacred Thief forms of 2023, before we move on to 2024. And I did have some high expectations for the Sacred Thief forms of 2024 as a result, but then again, we should probably save that particular topic once we get to the final thoughts of 2023. And in the end though, I felt a little bit mixed on this year. I mean, on the other hand, it does have some great highlights for the Sacred Thief forms of 2023, don't get me wrong, but no matter what though, again, we'll probably talk more about it until then. So, either way, it looks like we are pretty much done everything for Piglet's birthday stage, and of course, unlike the forms of how it does it on Piglet's big game, that there's actually an additional challenge that you can simply just try to tackle through Bravest of them all challenge in Piglet's big game, whilst in here though, there aren't any challenges like that. So because of that, I suppose we should probably also want to show off not only one mode, but 2 other modes as well. Likely also for its multiplayer mini-games, and there's also the Junior mode, and also much like the forms of how it does it on Piglet's big game, there is also the options menu as well. Now, I honestly have no idea why I accidentally selected this particular adventure right here, which appears to be Buddy Forms of Rue's birthday adventure. Well, mind you, because I just wanted able to double check if I somehow got everything on that particular stage. So, yeah, relatively speaking though, despite how some people might find 2023 is okay for the most part, even though some people might find this to be one of the most lackluster years by far, but then again though, I'll give my final thoughts of it once we're able to finish up the entire game, like I said before, especially if there's not much else I can really discuss on that front. I mean, on the other hand, we did have some very good stuff every once in a while, and I'm really looking forward to see what's next selections of movies they're able to actually bring for the likes of the films of 2024 and onwards, despite some of them has been delayed until 2025, after that particular aftermath for that particular, you know, the writer's strike, alongside with the actor's strike as well. So, yeah, the felt a little bit all over the place when it comes to the films of 2023 as a result, but even then though, I suppose mainly because of how the fact that there's so much going on. So, anyway, so yeah, there's not much else I can really say about this at this point. Although, relatively speaking though, it's about the fact that, well, despite the fact that it's actually like a pretty chilled, oh yeah, I just realized we are pretty much missing that particular music note from that particular Eeyore's birthday stage, so hopefully we'll try our best if we're able to actually search through everywhere, just in case we can able to actually find those glowing, you know, this blue glowing object as soon as we're able to try to find it. I mean, sure, some of them can be pretty easy to spot, but you have to pay attention to the forms of the surroundings of each and every single areas. So, anyway though, so aside from all that stuff though, there's not much else I can really say about the forms of today's discussion. Although, on the other hand, that I suppose that Tiana, she's already explained quite a lot of bits, thanks to the forms of Kirby's Dream Collection mini playthrough, and on top of that, I've already explained quite a few bits for the likes of Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, specifically the original Famicom Disk System version. And, relatively speaking though, since we've already did manage to tackle through every single 2D Mario games up to this point, then I'm really looking forward to able to actually just to get on with the forms of Super Mario Bros. Wonder until by that time until next year, once that's going to be roll around. But then again, we're not exactly sure when are we going to be doing that particular playthrough in mind, but we shall definitely see what happens in due time. So, but even then though, yeah, so because of that though, despite if you couldn't tell already, sometimes I'm going to be able to wander around aimlessly most of my time, especially concerning for the fact that, well, again, I've never actually fully 100% everything in this game before, mind you, because of how the fact that I've never actually, you know, get this game during the forms of likely long time ago, but that's just mainly because no matter what though, it's a shame that every now and then is that, much like what Tiana, she's already said, ever since enjoying the forms of Kirby's Dream Collection, it's pretty sad for E3 nowadays, because eventually that, in the later years to come, it seems that E3 itself is dead forever. So because of that, it's not going to be revived. So because of that though, it looks like for the majority of any other years nowadays, it's going to be Summer Game Fest. So, as a result, no matter what though, it's going to be pretty bleak when it comes to the forms of, exciting E3 announcements. Well, we can still able to expect that we were able to actually see some, you know, more Nintendo Directs to come, especially concerning for the fact that they always attempt to do that for each and every single year, besides 2020, just because 2020 was actually a bleak year when it comes to the forms of gaming announcements and stuff like that, and even especially noticeable with the lack of specific Nintendo Directs like the genuine ones. But relatively speaking, though, is about the fact that there's not much else to it able to actually just classify for mentioning it. So yeah, I've honestly have no idea whereabouts is the actual, the music note around here, because, again, it's just about, oh, it's right there. I was not expecting that was going to be in there, so thankfully we did somehow manage able to fully complete everything for Eeyore's birthday stage, so that should be good to go for the most part. So, now I suppose, again, I apologize for my comment take is a little bit slightly awkward, because I'm just seriously looking forward to, moving on to 2024, so we can pretty much expect what's going to be new to come. So, even then, let me know in the comments down below for the question of the day. Are you guys looking forward to 2024 tomorrow? Because I'm sure enough, I am. So because of that, yeah, not much else able to actually say about that. So, okay, so it looks like we've only got one more music note left, much like the forms of how it does it on Eeyore's birthday stage. And also that those bees are no longer respawning, so yeah, it seems that there's going to be bare minimum of content when it comes to replayability. Aside from the forms of some mini-games, which will show this off and during after we've done, you know, finding every single music note, it seems throughout the majority of the playthrough so far that we did missing out on not one but 4 music notes that we did somehow miss throughout the majority of the playthrough. So yeah, it seems kind of a little bit obvious for that point, especially concerning that this is actually my, you know, first time experiencing it, but after I finally managed able to finish everything up, I gotta say, it's actually pretty chilled for the most part. Oh, wait a second, that music note is on that rock the whole time. Well, no matter what though, we've gotten everything, so let's just go ahead and leave, and that was it. That was the entire purpose of the forms of this progression for the entire adventure mode. So, yeah, not too shabby for the most part, despite you do have to deal with a lot of exploration for most of your time. But anyway, let's go ahead and move along to the next mode, which it appears to be buddy forms of the mini games, where we can able to actually play as not only one character, but few other characters as well. Like, we can still able to actually play as Pooh after all, and we can also manage to able to play as Piglet, and even Tigger as a matter of fact. But there's also the 5th playable character, and technically the 6th playable character as well. So, right off the get-go is about the fact that we can able to actually access to not 1, not 2, but quite a few mini-games here and there. Like, for instance, with Cookie Maze, find the cookies, chase the honey pots kind of mini-game, and follow the line. So, yeah, I think there was like, oh, there's a scare-off game too. So because of that, yeah, make it a grand total of 5 minigames we can play. So because of that, let's go and get started with the forms of the chronological order by going through Cookie Maze. And we can only select up to 1 or 2 players or anything else like that. So, yeah, as I said before, you can still able to be play as Pooh, Piglet, and Tigger. But there's also the another playable character, which appears to be Roo. So, yeah, pretty cool as far as I can usually tell for this point. And yeah, it looks like we need to try to grab as many cookies as you can. Watch out for the heffalumps or woozles. So, yeah, that's the main description for it. Especially concerning for the fact that, again, if you get scared by heffalump or woozle, I believe something tells me that you will able to lose cookies or something. Well, mind you, I haven't exactly experienced this mode for myself, you see. So because of that, yeah, you simply have to able to collect certain cookies, and that's all there is to it. You know, think of like Pac-Man, except rather than collecting Pac dots, so instead you can able to actually collect some of these, well, cookies on screen. So because of that, sometimes they obviously spawn in different spots. So, yeah, nothing new for that particular point. But at least it's actually pretty cool. You can able to actually play as Roo in this game, but it's only accessible during the course of the multiplayer mode. So, yeah, I suppose that's pretty much as far as we can able to think about. When it comes to the forms of this particular mode itself, although you can able to actually play again if you wanted to, especially concerning about the fact that, oh, looks like the layout has changed. So, yeah, I suppose no matter what though, it's about the fact that obviously that you have to collect all of those cookies until you move on to the next or something like that. So, but yeah, aside from all that stuff though, it's about the fact that still, it is very unfortunate that E3 is no longer going to be continuing its support. And yeah, it looks like we did somehow got scared by the one of those woozles, if you can tell. So yeah, it's pretty much already over. So that's fine, because I'm only just going to show this off anyway. So, yeah, that was it for the forms of Cookie Maze. So, yeah, it's basically kind of like Pac-Man, except, well, obviously you can able to actually just go into, oh, we can only choose like 2 stages or something. But either way, enough about that. Let's go and move on to catch the honey pot. And this is where we get ourselves and yet another playable character where we're going to be playing as the honey pot itself, which obviously are, you know, referencing Heffalumps and Woozle's song from the likes of, you know, Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day. So I kind of believe it's been crazy to able to know that we're actually going to be playing as the honey pot itself. Catch the honey pot before time runs out. Or, alternatively speaking though, that since that we're going to be playing as Pooh after all, this means we have to able to chase down that particular honey pot. But, if you play as the honey pot, you have to avoid getting caught by any other players. So, yeah, feels like a kind of like a pretty interesting things, I suppose. Well, then again, it's been a very long while since I actually did done some of my commentary, since Injury Forms have been yesterday, so yeah, you can pretty much expect what this is going. So, oh wow, that was incredibly fast for that particular stage as far as I'm aware. So, either way, I suppose we should probably be able to actually show off you know, that particular honey pot character we can able to play as. So, and as to be expected, we can able to go through 2 stages at piece. So remember not to get caught before the time runs out. So yeah, as I said before, it's kind of like you know what I'm talking about. So it looks like we're about to get chased by the forms of not only let's just say Winnie the Pooh, but also Tigger as well. So we're getting chased by 2 players. So I'm not exactly sure if it's possible you can able to play on 4-player mode. Maybe I keep thinking about this particular another game that is entirely based on Winnie the Pooh, which appears to be party time with Winnie the Pooh, where you can able to have 4 players with you. And basically, for what I've seen of gameplay footage of that game, it plays pretty similar to Mario Party 9 or Mario Party Island Tour most likely, just because you go for a linear board and we did somehow go caught. So it's pretty easy to get caught in this particular moments like this, especially noticeable if you almost get stuck by a wall or anything else like that. Sometimes you never know if you're about able to actually get yourselves a proper freedom of movements or something, so, but I digress. And again, I apologize if my commentary is a little bit slightly awkward sometimes, because I think that's as far as I can usually talk about for the sake of the forms of not only for the majority of 2023, which again will give our final thoughts of this entire year once we finish this, but it's also about the fact that we're able to actually realize about, you know, how the game plays out for Winnie the Pooh's Rumbly Tumbly Adventure, for the GameCube or PlayStation 2 versions. It seems kind of weird about the fact that the Xbox versions never exist for the likes of not only for this game, but also with the forms of Piglet's Big Game as well, which I'm not exactly sure why. Mainly because it's most likely for its demographic or something. Well, I suppose that seems to be the case, but even then, no, that's as far as I can usually say about the forms of what the heck is going on with both Pooh and Tigger. They just both got stuck for some reason. Like, I just have no words what they were doing. But anyway, we did somehow win regardless. So, yeah, that's what happens if you manage to survive from that particular, you know, getting chased by the forms of, you know, Pooh and Tigger and all that stuff. So, yeah, I suppose that was about it for, catch that honey pot, and now let's go ahead and move on to find the cookies. And, well, obviously you have to collect all the cookies, and that's all there is to really think about it. So let's select Piglet this time. So because of that, yeah, it's kind of like the forms of how it does in that familiar mechanic from Piglet's Big Game, except no matter what though, is about the fact that you only have to do it before the time runs out. So, yeah, you have to search the area and find some cookies, and yeah, that's all you can really do. Press the X button if you go near to that glowing spot, and basically you can able to actually just grab several cookies from there. So, wait a second. Oh, no, okay. I keep on thinking about the forms of the honey pots for some reason for that particular visual effects. So, because of that, we have to, like, go near to that little sparkly circle bit, and because basically that's how it indicates how much cookies was expected to be in here. So, and the more you collect those cookies, then obviously you can move on to the next phase. So, like, basically, for instance, we start the minigame off by collecting 5 cookies, and then eventually later on we need to collect 10. And eventually it gets a little bit more aggressively difficult later on, but thankfully the timer just somehow goes back by default at one point, especially concerning if you move on to the next phase, and, you know, rams and repeat basically. So, yeah, there's not much else to really think about it, so. Although it seems pretty interesting to be able to have multiplayer aspect on this as well, unlike the forms of how it does it on Piglet's Big Game, there's only single player focus. So, yeah, not much else explanations for the sake of time, so even then though, yeah, that's what I really got, so. Although, one thing is you probably want to notice by this point is about the fact that I don't think there's going to be a playable Eeyore in this game, so, well, at least to be more specifically in the minigame selection, or in the party mode, or just multiplayer mode as far as I'm aware. But it's just no matter what though, it's just for the sake of bragging rights, I guess. Even if you really want to enjoy multiplayer stuff as much as I do, well, usually relatively speaking though, despite this game only has like 5 mini-games, so I was expecting for the fact that maybe I should probably go back on to, well, let's say Mario Party for a bit. Although, mind you, it's been a very long time since I actually have last played Mario Party Superstars at one point, just because, again, like I mentioned this before, ever since on the 18th of December, we have no idea what's going to be up next for the sake of the Mario Party series. I mean, sure, we actually got into 17 games up to this point, and one thing I honestly forgot to mention about, ever since in that particular collection, there was that one particular game I'm missing out for the entire Mario Party game collection. Well, technically speaking, it's not actually a physical game or anything. It's more accurately like a card-based system for Mario Party E. They have to utilize the Nintendo e-reader, which as a result, no matter what though, I still haven't claimed that. So, Yeah, I might be biased, I suppose, but even then... Oh, okay, so it only goes up to, like, 20 cookies a piece. So, okay, coolio. Cool thing to know. So I believe you only have to do this for about 4 different phases, at least as far as I'm concerned. And again, if the time runs out, basically you have to start all over again, I suppose. So, or potentially speaking though, you might able to actually lose the minigame in the process. So, yeah, it's a pretty self-explanatory minigame no matter what though, especially, again, if you ever played Piglet's Big Game before, you know exactly how it sounds. And basically, we can now able to collect cookies again. So, however though, you can't able to actually just to like, well, activate the new scare or something like that, or scary face, as far as what I was meant to say. And also, if you couldn't tell, it does manage able to take place in the forms of the top-down perspective this time around though. Oh, wait a second. I get the strong feeling that this level might be very tricky when it comes to grinding certain cookies on that front, because every single, like, objects are pretty spaced out sometimes. But then again, though, I'm just only gonna show these off regardless of the forms of your interest for the sake of the forms of trying to, you know, try those specific minigames out. So, but that's just the way how the things are usually potentially trying to place out to be. So I suppose there aren't any heffalumps or wurzels to be found during the course of this minigame, so I suppose no matter what though, in the later minigames coming up, was expecting to able to have something a little bit more familiar, but then again though, we'll have to wait for that particular topic once we're able to actually see those things first for its minigames, so... Oh yeah, I suppose I should probably want to mention about this as well, I think anyway, is that recently I've already pre-ordered not only Mario vs. Donkey Kong for the Nintendo Switch as a remake, but also Sora Amiibo for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, so, but at least I'm really looking forward to able to actually gain not 1 but 2 items potentially for the sake of the forms of trying to able to celebrate the 13th anniversary of the Maxi Toys coming up, so, and as to be expected, no matter what though, during the course of in 2024, that, again, we should probably save that particular topic once we're able to... Oh, goody, we did somehow succeed. So, yeah, that was about it when it comes to forms of Find the Cookies minigames. It's actually pretty self-explanatory, and it's also very simple at the same time. So now it's going to move along to Follow the Line. So, and this time we'll play as Tigger. So, there's only like 2 stages we can only pick. So... yeah, it seems kind of odd, kind of thingy by. So yeah, basically though, it's about the fact that you have to follow the line and stay as close to it as you can, and then basically it's gonna able to just trace around the line very carefully before the time runs out. You know, think of like Trace Race from Mario Party 4, and as well as Mario Party The Top 100 and Mario Party Superstars, except no matter what though, the more you're able to move along with the actual line, well, this is where things gets really tricky, because the camera will sometimes manage able to freak you out at one point. So, no matter what though, I was going to be sturdy enough, so just in case I can able to just make it for this point right here. So yeah, that was it for that particular first stage, and it looks like for the second stage, might be pretty difficult, which I can assure to you because of how the fact that sometimes that the layout might felt a little bit weird at points, and I think you only got about 30 seconds to do this, so... oh jeez, this is gonna be quite treacherous for the most part, even though sometimes you can't be extremely slow, because otherwise, if you go extremely slow, the time will just goes by a lot faster than I thought it was, so yeah, I get the feeling I don't think I can probably make it for that point, or can I? Wait. Oh, so... oh, okay, I did somehow succeed, apparently, okay. That was quite challenging, I'm not gonna lie, especially because, again, the camera can sometimes throw you off at points. So, anyway, to scare off, I believe this is the only mode that you can only play as 2 different characters, which there are both Winnie the Pooh and Piglet. So, yeah, I've honestly have no idea why that Tigger or Roo is not potentially be playable on this minigame, so I've honestly have no words. So yeah, basically you have to able to follow these button commands in order to able to actually activate your screen face, and yeah, that's all you really have to do in this minigame. It's just about the fact you have to press 5 different button combinations, and basically you can able to get one of those victory points or anything else like that. So, I actually really do like this minigame though, even though sometimes the AI can get pretty dang good at this though sometimes, assuming of course they obviously know the commands very well. So, yeah, apart from those side of things, though, it gets a bit intense at points. So, and every once in a while, yeah, we have to able to utilize the analog stick sometimes, or the D-pad, if you will. So, yeah, it seems kind of weird about the fact that Piglet and Pooh Bear is gonna be potentially only acceptable for this. Ah, dang it, I messed that combo. And I've never actually seen Pooh Bear managed able to pull off certain screen faces like this, or some scare face like this one, so... Ah, come on! And yeah, sometimes the question marks can obviously screw you up again, but regardless of anything else though, I think it's like a best out of 5, or something like that, at least as far as I can definitely tell from the score thing, so... Oh, come on! Dang, this question mark thing is not helping! Oh jeez, what was that about? Okay, never mind about that. Oh jeez, it gets pretty difficult though with all these question marks are pretty well hidden. Oh, I think I did pull this off. Oh, we've never seen that face before. Well, potentially speaking though, oh. Okay, I have no words to say, so... Again, it's only for one stage for that particular minigame, so... Yeah, that's basically all there is to it with the scare-off. I would say the scare-off is pretty interesting, because obviously it plays pretty similar to Piglet's Big Game, except it's more competitive, so... Yeah, that's about it for the minigame selections right here. I mean, it's pretty simple for the most part. I mean, sure, what you expect for a kid's game like this, so... Anyway, so let's go ahead and move along and just show off the music mode, first off, because obviously no matter what though, assuming of course if you managed able to collect all those music notes, you can able to actually play all kinds of music you can able to actually listen to, and because of that though, it's basically like sound test basically, so because of that, yeah, that's all there is to really think about this, especially concerning for the fact that, well, I honestly don't remember the soundtrack as much as the films of Piglet's Big Game, I will admit that right away, because I do have a lot of nostalgia memories for the sake of Piglet's Big Game as much as this, so, but even then though, yeah, that's all there is to really think about when it comes to Pooh Music Hall, so, yeah, you can only listen to for about quite a few music from time to time, so... Yeah, that's all there is to really think about for the actual sound test in this game. So, anyways, before we end off the playthrough right there is one particular other mode we can probably show off, and that's what appears to be Junior Mode. Where basically, Junior Mode is basically it's like a preschool mode, where basically you can able to actually just only interact with the forms of certain spots, and in addition to that, you can able to actually explore some small parts of the forms of one of the areas in 100 Acre Wood, and basically that is about the fact that you can able to once again interact with certain bits, mainly for instance with all these preschool elements to it. Likely for instance, we can able to smell some flowers, or potentially speaking though, just summon those butterflies with all these particular flowers in mind, and also we can able to just do a brief little tutorial about the forms of shoving those crates over to the other side, which we've already done that before on the main story mode, or the main adventure mode. And of course we got this iconic balloon right here, and I think it's going to burst, so yeah, it already did burst. And I believe, relatively speaking though, you can also manage able to play as a multitude of characters from time to time for, you know, the Junior Mode. And also, there was that particular reference to something related to Pooh Bridge. So, you know, when if you watch the actual, the stick to somehow traverse through the stream water, or the stream lake.
If you're hungry, Pooh dear, you should eat a little honey. I'm sure there's some in the shed behind me.
But I digress. So... Also, not to mention though, is about the fact that you can also manage able to play as a multitude of characters in a Junior Mode. Likely, for instance, we can able to actually go into one of those segments where basically you can either decide to able to take control of Winnie the Pooh the whole time, And on top of that, there was also Tigger section, and there's also the Piglet section, and there's also an Eeyore section as well. So pretty much do all sorts of things to able to mess around with. Although it was just there for the sake of the fonts of for those who are a younger player, then obviously you can able to actually do kind of like practice the actual game by exploring through certain parts, or potentially speaking, just do all sorts of interactive stuff here and there for the sake of the fonts are trying to able to see what these things can do. But either way, let's just play as Tigger for the final time.
Hello, Tigger. Hey there, Buddy Bear. Say, do you want to do some bouncy Tigger-type twirling with me? Well, that might make me, rather dizzy. Perhaps I should, watch.
So yeah, with that being said though, it's about the fact that at the very least we can able to see Roo right here, despite the fact that you can't play as Roo, during the course of the overworld, aside from the fact that you can only play as him during the course of in a minigames mode. And yeah, that's what I can really think about it. Especially noticeable, he can able to jump at one point, so...
Hi, Tigger. Would you show me how to do the whoopity-dooper bounce, would ya?
The whoopty-dooper bounce? Of course, little Roo. That's what Tiggers do best. Now, watch carefully. Ooh.
But anyway, so I believe if we go across that bridge, I think we can able to actually get interrupted by the forms of not only those frogs, but maybe potentially rabbit might show up.
No, it's impossible to take a nap in here.
But anyway, I suppose we should probably able to just, well, maybe calm them down or something? Or perhaps even maybe we definitely need to, like, just leave this area for now. So I think, relatively speaking now, I think it's gonna be something to do with likely stealth-based. So we're just gonna have to able to keep things a bit slow. So, because again, if you accidentally just trying to jump at one point, then... or if you're trying to bounce, then it'll just cause the actual frogs to able to just keep on, like, croaking and stuff like that. So, and I think we did somehow made it to that particular seesaw bit. And, of course, we have no stripes. And I think that was actually a nice callback from the likes of not only the episode Stripes, from the new adventures of Winnie the Pooh cartoon series, but it's also about the fact there's a nice little throwback to the films of one of those cutscenes you find during the course of in Piglet's big game as well, if both Rabbit and Tigger have managed able to get certain dreams to able to become sleep. So, at least as far as I was expecting this for, but either way though, I suppose we are basically done playing as Tigger for now.
Oh, that was rather fun. But I suppose I should be going now, so, goodbye, Tigger.
But then again, it's just about the fact that Junior Mode is not exactly the hugest thing in the world. I mean, it's just there for the sake of the forms of, again, trying to able to practice certain main mechanics for the sake of the forms of certain playable characters, and as well as certain things you can able to actually just do, like, interact with. And I believe around in here, I think this is where we're going to be meeting up with Eeyore. And I think, relatively speaking, though, we can play as Eeyore for, presumably for the final time, which that could be also applies for Piglet as well, if we get to that particular section.
Hello, Eeyore. How are you?
Although, unlike the forms of how it does it on the adventure mode, that, well, we can still able to catch things, likely for instance with these frogs right here. However though, on the other hand, we can't able to actually just go ahead and just deal with, like, catching butterflies. Or even especially noticeable that, Pooh cannot able to actually have a ride on the forms of Eeyore, so I suppose no matter what though, we can able to actually investigate certain parts throughout. Although, if you had enough, then obviously just go back to where Pooh was, so yeah, that's not much else to say. Oh jeez, that will certainly give Al a bit of a dizziness after a while. Now I suppose there might be a gopher around here somewhere, which I suppose, relatively speaking though, well, you know, just trying to catch those frogs, and yeah, that's what I can really say.
Hey!
So we go for it's just about the fact that Eeyore is once again getting scared and panicked, but this time with a bee, so yeah, seems very obvious.
Eeyore, stop. You see, the bees have gone away. So there's nothing to be afraid of. Perhaps you should have a little rest. And while you're resting, I think I shall go see what our friends are doing.
Now, even though despite the fact that we have to keep on switching between these characters most of your time during the course of in Junior mode, you have to sit through all these loading screens before you're able to go back to the previous section and what have you, but regardless of everything else though, I think it is somewhere beyond in this bridge right here that we can pretty much guarantee we can able to play as Piglet, because I can definitely tell from that particular color of the screen of the loading screen, and hopefully we can able to meet up with this last enemy in the entire game, so...
Hello, Piglet.
Oh, hello, Pooh. I'm going for a walk. Would you like to join me?
Oh, thank you, Piglet. But I believe I shall rest for a while.
So yeah, like I mentioned this earlier, is about the fact that this will be the final time we're going to be playing as Piglet in this game, because aside from that, well, we can able to actually interact with the last few bits from time to time, and we can able to just watering that particular seed right there, which will create a flower, so we did somehow manage to grow that. So, and I think we can able to actually pick that flower up if we can, but relatively speaking though, I don't think there is an inventory system for the sake of the forms of the Junior mode, because obviously no matter what though, you can able to actually replay the exactly same thing all over again, and yeah, somehow Piglet got scared by the echo voice for himself. So yeah, pretty obvious things as far as I'm aware. So either way, let's just see what's in here, and sure enough, there was a broom that we can able to just sweep up with. And that'll basically just be sorted by then, or perhaps even maybe it just does it by its own or something. But either way though, enough about that, so let's just go in and check on the forms of other few bits for here and there. Likely also just stroking a frog, which as a result, yeah, it does remind me of the forms of one of those scenes from the Tigger movie, so... And of course, that was actually a nice little throwback to the forms of Winnie the Pooh's grand adventure in the search of Christopher Robin right there, where these butterflies did somehow manage to able to carry Piglet for certain parts throughout. So, I wonder what's beyond here. Oh, well, what do we have here? We actually stumbled across into ourselves our familiar tree monster ever since enjoying the forms of Piglet's big game. So, no matter what though, we can easily take him down, so there goes the actual tree monster. So, I don't suppose we can't able to actually go for this bit, because obviously it's like a bottomless pit or something. I mean, let's face it though, there are so many visible walls around here, so that was it.
Oh, thank you, Piglet. That was very fun.
And I suppose that's pretty much as far as I can usually discuss upon the forms of how Junior mode plays out to be, especially concerning for the fact that, like I mentioned this before, that it's just basically it's just for a nice little distraction, I suppose. Even especially noticeable, you might stumble across into several references for the sake of the forms of other Winnie the Pooh stuff, mainly for the sake of the forms of certain movies, as well as certain episodes of the actual TV cartoon series and stuff like that. I mean, relatively speaking though, like I said before, it's been about quite a few hours since I actually have last recorded this, and potentially speaking, I'm just looking forward to not only just jump right into 2024, but also be able to end things off everything for 2023 as a result. So, now I suppose the final thing we'll show off is the options menu, and to access to it, you need to able to actually go onto this little pumper card thingy right there, in order to able to actually access the option menu, whilst unlike any forms of how it does it in, well, Piglet's big game, that basically you can able to simply try to find it if you decide able to go back for one of those sections. And speaking of Piglet's big game though, is that I've noticed the options menu looks very similar to the forms of how it does it on Piglet's big game. Likely also you can able to actually set the settings for your sound as in the forms of mono or stereo, so we can potentially try to able to change the settings at any time. So, and there's also the forms of how the fact that we can able to view the credits, which will show that for last. And there's also the forms of the vibration mode, where basically it's like a rumble feature for depending on what's version you're playing. And there's also the center screen where you can able to adjust your screen settings. And for these little particular whistles right there, that is actually the volume level, which kind of think about it is actually pretty similar to when you're trying to deal with these frogs from Piglet's Big Game. So yeah, that's all there is to really think about for the options menu. So with that being said, let's view the credits and, well, just give you guys my final thoughts of Winnie the Pooh's Rumbly Tumbly Adventure for the PlayStation 2 / Nintendo GameCube. For my final thoughts, it's alright. I mean, it's definitely a little bit more of a relaxed game, more than action-packed kind of game. I mean, first of all, I still really like the presentation in this game, even though the graphics are very identical to the forms of Piglet's Big Game. And on top of all that stuff though, despite the fact it's being made by a different developer, of course. And also, I do still manage to able to enjoy the gameplay aspect, although I will admit though right away is that I'm not a big fan of the forms of how the fact that there's a lack of unique themes, although aside from the fact that we can only explore through 100 Acre Wood, and that's about it basically. I mean, pure and simple, I mean, it's nothing long or lengthy or anything else like that. I mean, I can honestly able to actually recommend it or something like that, assuming of course depending on what system you have, either on the GameCube or the PlayStation 2 versions, so I suppose you might as well give this game a bit of a shot. What's even weird is that the actual music in the background is also very similar to Piglet's Big Game, believe it or not, especially concerning for the fact that the actual font of the actual credit sequence is also very similar as well. But at the very least, we're now able to actually have ourselves a background this time around, featuring not only Winnie the Pooh, but also Christopher Robin as well. So, despite the fact that it's even weird is that there is no staff credit sequence if you manage to finish the game, likely also finishing up Pooh's birthday stage. So it's kind of strange, kind of thing about it, unlike in Piglet's Big Game, is that when you beat in Granosaurus, the final boss in that game, basically you do able to actually access the staff credit sequence, which I have no idea they somehow managed able to get this missed opportunity bit right there. I mean, to be fair though, I'm guessing that out of all the actual like Winnie the Pooh games I did somehow play throughout the majority of the channel, it is definitely okay. I mean, it's not one of my favorites though. That honor still goes to Piglet's Big Game in my opinion, especially concerning for the fact I just love exploring unique themes, likely also for its world themes or level themes, potentially speaking. Whilst this is not too bad, unlike the Game Boy Advance version that I felt is a little bit of a boring fest to me. Well, aside from the fact that the graphics have been slightly limited at one point, especially noticeable is on, you know, on the Game Boy Advance and all that stuff, which also let me know in the comments down below if you want me to tackle for the Game Boy Advance version of the game, well, by all means, because obviously no matter what though, that was it basically. So even then though, yeah, you can able to give this game a rant, especially concerning for the fact that if you want to check this out, then by all means, then just give that a chance. So, with that being said though, yeah, that was the entire final Let's Play in 2023, and suffice to say, let's get over to my final thoughts of 2023 as a result. I will say that 2023 as a year itself is, I'm a little bit mixed on it. On the other hand, there are some good parts here and there during the course of 2023. For one, the game selection is fantastic, and I think the biggest highlight for the game selection to me though is the majority of the Nintendo games basically, likely also that it's actually gone to a great start for the forms of the Nintendo Switch selections of games, like we've got several remasters, likely also Kirby's Return of Dreamland Deluxe, alongside with Metroid Prime Remastered, and we finally get a chance to receive Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, and on top of that, there are some interesting newer games as well, like some of them are actually new and incredible, likely also for the sake of the forms of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, as well as Pikmin 4 for the longest time that everyone else seems able to be begging to want to play, you know, Pikmin 4, and as a result, everyone else is incredibly happy about the forms of Pikmin 4's existence right now. So, at the very least, we've got that, and on top of that, Super Mario Bros. Wonder is actually an enjoyable time, and also with the forms of WarioWare Move It for its nice little successor to the forms of WarioWare Smooth Moves back on the Nintendo Wii. And at the very least though, in terms of remakes or remasters potentially, we actually got ourselves the really dang great expansion to the forms of Sonic Origins, despite the fact that the price tag is a bit too pricey back in the day, during the course of in 2022, whilst compared to the forms of a this year for its plus content, at the very least the pricing is a bit generous enough. Although if you really want to get the game physically, then by all means you can able to do that. And on top of that, speaking of something related to Sonic the Hedgehog, I will say is that Sonic is actually doing pretty well this year as well, just like the forms of how it does it in last year. Like we received during the forms of in well, let's just say the next season of Sonic Prime, specifically Season 2, and on top of that, there is also the forms of, as I mentioned this before, Sonic Origins by the forms of Sonic Origins Plus, and not only that though, we did somehow receive the newest game in the lineup, which appears to be Sonic Superstars, which I found that game to be a pretty good time, but not my favorite game in the series though. That still honor goes the forms of Sonic 3 and Knuckles in my opinion. And also that Sonic Frontiers did somehow receive not one, but 3 different free updates, which I will say, those are pretty good, even though the Final Horizons is a bit pretty difficult, like what Sonic has already mentioned about this before, ever since the entire conclusion of Sonic Frontiers. But apart from that, and also I really enjoy Super Mario RPG Remake so far, and as a result though, the game selections are fantastic, easily without doubt the strongest points. And on top of that, the film selections is pretty good for the most part. Like, easily my favorite movie I've seen so far, in terms of 2023, it honestly goes to the Super Mario Bros. Movie, just because I'm a die-hard Mario fan, despite how critics didn't seem to like it as much as we do. And also I do really enjoy quite a bit for Fast X, and I especially do enjoy Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and also the UK version of Puss in Boots The Last Wish, and also I do somehow manage able to enjoy Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, and unfortunately though, much like the forms of how it does in the last year, I've not seen that much movies after a while, mainly because of this one negative thing I want to able to address something. Disney is pretty rough this year, mainly because aside from the fact that they did somehow manage able to celebrate the 100th year anniversary of the Walt Disney Company itself, but execution-wise, in terms of this year though, for Disney, is pretty much all over the place. There are some films I like Elemental, and some of these films I'm not a big fan of, and some other films I absolutely just despise the most. Likely, for instance, no matter what though, it's bad enough that the box office has gone incredibly bad for certain films alike, mainly for instance with the films of the Marvels, and especially noticeable with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and lots more really, which, kind of think about it though, the only highlight I can probably think about in regards to the films of Disney 100 years anniversary is still honestly goes to the films of Once Upon a Studio, because that is by far the best aspect in terms of the films of Disney 100 Years of Wonder. Oh, I also forgot to mention Wish as well. Well, I would say that Wish is pretty disappointing to me. So I must say though is about the fact that I would say Elemental is probably the most decent one of the bunch, but nothing too special about it. Well, aside from the fact that Peter Pan and Wendy just, disappointed me, and don't even get me started on the Little Mermaid live-action remake. Like, my god, that particular remake is despicably bad, at least in my opinion. And it gets worse though during the future years to come, like 2024 as well as 2025. My god, I'm getting so sick of the forms of the live-action remakes. I just don't. Ugh. But yeah, that's besides the point. So, on the other hand though, that's as far as I can usually try to describe about the forms of how 2023 actually plays out to be. I mean, it is okay for what it is. I mean, sure, it's definitely a little bit up there than the forms of how it does on the last 3 years, because 2020 is an abomination, whilst 2021 is okay, and 2022 is also okay. So it feels like we're on the third year in a row that I feel like that this year is okay. But, relatively speaking though, let me know in the comments down below of what your final thoughts of 2023 as a whole. So yeah, in terms of what's going to be up next for the Mexi Toys department for next year in 2024, well, I'm actually pretty excited for the forms of selections of movies coming up, first of all. Like, we got ourselves Kung Fu Panda 4, as well as Inside Out 2, and let's not forget to mention ourselves, the Blue Blur is going to be back during the course of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. And in terms of the new games that's going to be coming out for it, aside from the fact that with Princess Peach Showtime, that's going to be the only newest one I can probably think about. And in terms of the forms of remake selections of games I was really looking forward to, like for instance Mario vs. Donkey Kong Remake on the Switch, and as well as the forms of Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, which we can finally get a chance to do Luigi's Mansion 2 during the course of in 2024, until whenever we decide to do it until Halloween once again. And most notably, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door HD for the Switch, because I am seriously going to be excited for it. And maybe there's some other announcement games that might eventually pop up during the course of in 2024 in the future. So because of that, and let's not forget ourselves with the forms of the most upcoming event during the course of in 2024, that's what appears to be none other than Paris 2024 Summer Olympics. So that's going to takes place in France, in Paris. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see how Paris 2024 is going to play out to be. So, and also not to mention though, the last thing I want to mention is that at some point on June next year in 2024, I'm about to be going into the Super Nintendo World in Hollywood, in Universal Studios in Hollywood. So yeah, sometime in June, that will happen. Especially, I'm really looking forward to able to actually just to see that place in person. So, and yeah, that's as far as I can usually describe about the forms of the, well, what I'm most excited for when it comes to the forms of 2024. I mean, yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you guys are also excited for 2024. And sure enough, that was about the fact that, oh, I suppose the last thing I do have some main gripes I have with this year is with that particular messy uploading schedules department during the course of in the Mexi Toys department. Like, it's obviously, well, in the beginning it's not so bad, but in the later months to come, my god, I will say the uploading schedule, structurally speaking, is a bit of a mess. So hopefully we'll try to fix that, at some point during the course of in 2024, so hopefully we're not going to able to mess things up in terms of the actual uploading schedules department. So yeah, I was to let you guys know that. So yeah, I hope you guys do enjoy the films of 2023 as a year itself, and still, like I mentioned this before, it was okay. So yeah, this is me, Mexi, here, from the likes of the Mexi Toys, and until then, we will see you guys until in a brand new year, in 2024. So yeah, it's going pretty crazy kind of thinking about it. So I'll see you guys then. Bye, and goodbye to 2023.